Picture this New Year's Eve, 10 seconds to midnight. The Ballantyne house is packed, champagne everywhere, countdown screaming on the TV. I'm holding one last gift, small gold box, nothing fancy. My younger brother Jackson spots me, stumbles over, and rips it from my hands. Before I can speak, he pivots and slam dunks the box straight into the kitchen trash can. Lid slams. Gold ribbon flutters to the floor. The room explodes. My parents start clapping first. Cousins, aunts, uncles. 35 people all cheering like it's the funniest thing they've ever seen. Someone yells. Finally, Jackson throws his arms up like he just won the Super Bowl and screams. No one in this family wants you here anyway. Phones are out. Red lights blinking, catching every second in 4K. I don't scream. I don't cry. I just smile, calm and clear, and say loud enough for every microphone to hear, very gladly. I grab my coat, walk through the cheering crowd, and close the front door behind me as the countdown inside hits 0. My name is Bellamy Ford, 34, senior data scientist, the daughter they just threw out of their house. In less than 15 minutes, deputies will knock, and every person still clapping will regret it. If you've ever been the family ATM no one thanked, stay. Subscribe and drop a comment telling me which city you're listening from, because you're about to see what happens when the quiet one finally speaks. I'm 34, senior data scientist at one of the largest fintech firms in Charlotte. My models stop payment fraud worth hundreds of millions every quarter, and last year, I became the youngest lead in the division. At family tables, none of that has ever counted for anything. For 9 straight years, the first of every month, $5,200 has left my account and landed in my parents' checking. 108 transfers. $538,800 total. I still have every confirmation email. That money covered Mom's rheumatoid infusions that run almost $12,000 a dose. Dad's heart meds the property taxes on the Ballantyne house, the new air conditioning unit, the emergency plumbing in 2021, everything that kept the lights on and the water running. I never asked for credit. I just wanted them safe. But safety let them rewrite the story. Every holiday, Dad stands up and toasts the son who's been holding this family together. Mom beams, posts pictures online about how lucky they are to have such a devoted boy. Relatives flood the comments with praise for the child who supposedly carries the load. My brother sits there soaking it in money he never earned. I've watched aunts press cash into his hand for everything you do for your parents. Cousins beg for investing tips because he's crushing it in tech. Neighbors ask when his startup is going public. When someone remembers, I exist. Dad shrugs and says, I do something with computers. Conversation immediately swings back to Jackson's latest pitch. 2 years ago, Mom needed a new biologic the insurance denied. $22,000 up front. I wired it the same afternoon. A month later, I found the thank you card addressed to him on the counter. I photographed it, added it to the folder with the paid invoices. Only one person ever saw through the act. Aunt Meredith, Dad's younger sister, started texting me after every gathering, saw them ignore you again. I know who really pays the bills. Keep the proof. She was the only relative who refused to clap for the lie. Documentation is second nature when your job is data. I saved statement screenshots of Mom asking me to send it to Jackson's account for easier taxes, cleared checks, Venmo trails, all of it. Clean data for the day the model finally had to run. People always ask why I kept paying. Because I was 16 the first time I watched Mom count coins for groceries after Dad's hours got cut. Because I saw Dad stare at medical bills like they were death sentences. Because I promised myself they'd never feel that terror again. So I fixed it the way I fix broken code, quietly, line by line, no audience required. Meanwhile, my brother moved back home at 25 after his first app crashed. He never left. Dad converted the den into his founder headquarters. Mom still cooks his favorite meals and brags about his all-night coding sessions that are actually Fortnite tournaments. My promotion to lead dad called it a nice little bump. The keynote I gave to 2,000 people at the national conference silence. Jackson saying he almost landed a $100,000 angel check. The entire table cheered like he'd already cashed it. Last Easter, when Dad raised yet another toast to the golden sun, Aunt Meredith lifted her glass and said, "And here's to the kid who actually keeps the power on so we can see our plates." The table went quiet. Mom glared. Dad changed the subject in 3 seconds flat. Under the table, Meredith squeezed my hand once hard. That squeeze told me the clock was ticking. I didn't know exactly when the truth would surface. I only knew the folder on my encrypted drive was getting heavier every transfer, and someday the weight would shift. 2 months before New Year's Eve, my phone lit up with Jackson's name while I was in the middle of a board presentation downtown. I let it ring out. He called again. Then a text, "Family emergency." Answer. I stepped into the hallway and picked up on the third try. "Bellamy, we have a problem." He started voice low and dramatic, the tone he used when investors were listening. "The startup's about to close a $750,000 bridge round, but the lead wants personal guarantees before the holidays. I need you to co-sign. It's just paperwork." I stayed quiet long enough for him to fill the silence. "Look, the house is perfect collateral. Mom and Dad already agreed to put it up. The loan's only for 6 months. Once we hit the next milestone, we pay it off, and everyone wins." The house. The 4-bedroom colonial in Ballantyne with the wraparound porch and the oak tree I used to climb. The one they almost lost 3 years earlier when Dad quietly took out a second mortgage and a massive home equity line to fund Jackson's first 2 failed ventures. The one that had liens stacked so high the bank started foreclosure proceedings. I knew because I'd seen the notices when I still had access to their mail forwarding during a vacation. Instead of confronting them, I called Victoria Hayes, the real estate attorney I'd met at a Women in Tech event. She walked me through the quietest way to protect the only home my parents had ever known. We set up a revocable living trust. I paid off every lien, every overdue payment, every penalty, $691,000 total, drained from my bonus and stock options. Title stayed in Mom and Dad's names on paper, so their pride stayed intact, but the trust document named me sole beneficiary and trustee. If certain conditions were ever violated, abuse, attempted encumbrance without my consent, I could revoke their right to occupy immediately. Victoria called it the nuclear option with velvet gloves. I never told a soul except Aunt Meredith over coffee one afternoon. She just nodded and said, "Smart girl. Some people only learn when the bill comes due." Back on the phone, Jackson kept pushing. "It's a formality. The bank just wants another signature with good credit. You make what, 200-something now? They'll love you." I asked him to send the documents. An hour later, the email arrived. Bridge loan commitment. $750,000 collateral. 22117 Longleaf Pine Circle, Ballantyne, North Carolina. Borrowers Dennis and Pamela Ford, plus co-guarantor required. My signature block sat empty at the bottom. That night, I drove to my condo, opened the fire safe, bolted inside the closet, and pulled out the thick manila envelope marked Ballantyne Trust, Originals Only. Inside the recorded trust instrument dated March 2022, the satisfaction of mortgage from both lenders, the amendment giving me full revocation rights, and the writer Victoria had insisted on termination for hostile conduct toward the grantor's children. My handwriting on the signature line notarized and filed with Mecklenburg County. I spread the pages across the kitchen island and took photos of everyone. The next morning, Mom started texting Sweetie, "It would mean the world to your brother." By lunch, 3 aunts I hadn't spoken to in years called to remind me how family sticks together in tough times. Dad left a voicemail that ended with, "After everything we've done for you, this is the least you can do." Jackson tried again that afternoon. FaceTime this time from the downstairs office Dad had turned into his command center. Behind him, I could see the new 75-inch TV I'd paid for when the old one died. "Come on, Belle," he said. using the childhood nickname he hadn't earned in 15 years. "We're so close. Don't let your issues hold the family back." Issues. That was the word he always used when I dared mention the imbalance. I told him I'd think about it. Then I forwarded everything to Victoria with one line. "They're trying to pledge the house. Prepare the revocation package." She replied in 10 minutes. "Already have it ready since last year. Just say when." I didn't answer Jackson for 3 days. The messages escalated: guilt trips from Mom, lectures from cousins who still owed me money, passive-aggressive Facebook posts about some people forgetting where they came from. I read them all, screenshotted everything, and added them to the growing evidence folder. By the time Christmas decorations went up in Ballantyne, the pressure was constant. Jackson announced at the family group chat that 30 people were coming for the New Year's Eve party, our biggest ever. Mom added, "Please don't cause drama, honey. Just sign and we can all celebrate together." I read that message in my office on the 29th floor, city lights glittering below, and felt the last thread of patience snap. December 31st, the house in Ballantyne was absolutely packed. Over 35 people, cousins I hadn't seen since high school, neighbors who only showed up when free food and alcohol were involved, plus 5 guys in expensive sneakers who kept calling Jackson bro and slapping him on the back like he was already a unicorn founder. Gold and black. Happy New Year balloons bobbed against the vaulted ceiling. The 75-inch TV blared the live feed from Times Square. Mom had been cooking for 2 days straight. The kitchen island disappeared under trays of deviled eggs, brisket sliders, 7-layer dip, and her famous bourbon meatballs. Dad had set up a full bar in the dining room and was playing bartender in a ridiculous 2025 sequined hat. I arrived at 8:15 with one small gold box in my hand, high-end noise-canceling headphones Jackson had been dropping hints about for months. I figured I'd leave it on the pile, say hello to Aunt Meredith, and disappear before midnight. That was the plan. It lasted exactly 7 minutes. The second I walked through the door, the whispers started. "Still no ring on that finger. Jackson says his sister makes bank, but never helps the family. Look at her face. Someone's jealous of her little brother's success." I smiled, the same tight smile I'd perfected over the years, hung my coat in the hall closet, and went looking for Aunt Meredith. She was in the sunroom with the older aunt, sipping white wine and rolling her eyes at the noise. When she saw me, she opened her arms. "There's my girl," she said loud enough for 2 cousins to hear. I hugged her hard. By 11:30, the champagne had done its work. Jackson was shirt half unbuttoned, tie around his head like a headband, moving from group to group with a bottle of Dom Perignon he definitely didn't pay for. Every time someone asked about the bridge round, he'd grin and say, "Locked in, just waiting on one tiny signature. Family stuff, you know how it is." Then he'd wink in my direction like we shared some inside joke. 11:52. Dad killed the music and turned the TV volume sky high. Everyone crushed into the living room for the final countdown. Phones came out. A cousin started the 10-9 chant early. I still had the gold box because the gift table had collapsed under the weight of bottles and coats. Jackson spotted me near the hallway. His eyes narrowed, then lit up with drunk inspiration. He pushed through the crowd, sneakers squeaking on the hardwood, and planted himself right in front of me. "Well, look who decided to grace us with her presence," he announced to the entire room. Phones swung toward us like paparazzi. "The Queen has arrived with her royal offering." Laughter rippled. Someone whistled. Before I could hand the box over quietly, he snatched it from my fingers and held it above his head like he'd just won the Super Bowl. "Let's see what Big Sis brought for the little people." He shook it hard, making the bow bounce. Probably another lecture wrapped in a bow. He tore the paper in one violent rip. The headphones tumbled into his palm. He turned them over once, scoffed loud enough for the back row to hear, and said, "Oh, how thoughtful. Too bad nobody here wants your charity crap." Then, with every phone in the room now recording vertically, he pivoted, took 3 dramatic steps into the kitchen, and slam-dunked the entire box headphones packaging ribbon, everything straight into the stainless steel trash can. The lid slammed shut with a metallic crash that cut through the countdown chant. The room lost its mind. Dad started clapping first, slow, deliberate, proud dad claps. Mom threw her head back, laughing, and joined in. Within 2 seconds, the entire living room was roaring applause, whistles, cheers, cousins banging on the coffee table like it was a drumline. Someone screamed, "That's how you do it, Jax," another voice yelled. Finally, somebody said it. Jackson spun back to me, arms thrown wide, face glowing under the disco ball lights Dad had hung that afternoon. He was feeding off the energy like a rock star. "No one in this family wants you here anyway," he bellowed, slurring just enough to make it worse. "Take your perfect job and your perfect life and get the hell out." The applause doubled. A few people started chanting, "Jax, Jax, Jax." Someone popped another bottle. Foam sprayed across the room. Aunt Meredith shoved her way forward, wine sloshing. "Jackson Dennis Ford." "You shut your mouth right now," she shouted, but the music had kicked back on and the countdown was at 20 seconds. Her voice disappeared under the noise. Dad actually put a hand on her shoulder and guided her back, like she was the one causing a scene. I stood perfectly still while 35 phones filmed my face in 4K. I reached into my pocket, thumbed the record button on my own phone, angled it low so no one noticed, and let it capture every second, every laugh, every clap, every triumphant grin on my little brother's face. Then I smiled, real calm, almost relieved, and said clear and slow so every microphone picked it up, very gladly. The chanting faltered for half a second as I walked straight through the crowd. People parted without thinking. I grabbed my coat from the closet, opened the front door, and stepped out into the freezing night, just as the TV inside hit 0 and the first fireworks exploded over Charlotte. 10 minutes after midnight, while fireworks were still exploding in long golden cascades over Charlotte, my phone buzzed once. "Victoria Hayes. Knock in 60 seconds. Pull up now." I eased the car forward and parked directly in front of the house, headlights off, wipers clearing the light snow. At 12:14 exactly, an unmarked county SUV rolled up behind me. 2 uniformed deputies climbed out, followed by the court officer, carrying the sealed revocation packet and a clipboard thick with certified copies. A second deputy carried the bright yellow enforcement notice. The front door burst open before the first knock landed. Dad's voice boomed into the freezing air, still riding the champagne high. "Forget something, Princess." The court officer didn't flinch. "Dennis Ford, Pamela Ford, service of trust revocation and immediate removal from 2217 Longleaf Pine Circle, town of Ballantine. Step aside, please." Inside, the music died instantly. 35 stunned faces appeared in the doorway, and Windows phones still glowing from midnight selfies. Dad tried to laugh it off. "You've got the wrong address, officer. We own this house." The officer handed over the top copy. "Property is held in the Quinn Family Revocable Living Trust, recorded March 2022. Bellamy Ford is sole beneficiary and trustee. Due to hostile conduct and attempted unauthorized encumbrance, the trust is revoked effective 12:01 a.m. today. You are ordered to vacate immediately." Mom shoved past Dad, robe pulled tight, mascara already running. "This is our home. We've paid the mortgage for 30 years, ma'am," the deputy said evenly. "The liens from 2021 and 2022 were satisfied by the beneficiary. Title remained in your names for convenience only. That convenience ended tonight." Jackson barreled forward, barefoot tie still around his forehead. "This is fraud. She can't just steal our house." He reached for the papers. The nearest deputy caught his wrist mid-air and guided him back 2 steps without raising his voice. I stepped out of my car and walked up the salted driveway. Snowflakes melted on my cheeks. Every phone pivoted toward me like a swarm. Victoria Hayes was already waiting on the porch in a long black coat, tablet in hand. She gave me the smallest professional nod. Aunt Meredith appeared at my left, slipping her arm through mine without a word. Dad's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, then pure panic. "Bellamy, tell them this is a mistake. Call them off." I stopped at the bottom step and looked straight at the three of them. "You told the entire internet 5 minutes ago exactly how you feel about me. The trust has a hostile conduct termination clause. You triggered it on camera. These officers are here to enforce it." Mom dropped to her knees on the welcome mat, sobbing loud enough for the neighbors' Ring cameras to pick up. "You're throwing your parents out in the snow on New Year's Day." Aunt Meredith stepped forward half a pace. Her voice cut through the night like a teacher silencing a cafeteria. "I watched this child stay quiet for 3 solid years, while y'all spent her money and handed the credit to the wrong kid. Tonight you humiliated her in front of the whole family. Don't pretend you didn't know this day could come." A cousin tried to keep filming. The deputies simply lowered the phone with 2 fingers. "Please stop recording law enforcement action, sir." Victoria spoke up calm and clear. "Locksmith is 45 seconds out. My client has authorized immediate rekeying and utility transfer." Dad's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Jackson started yelling about lawsuits, lawyers, judges, anything that sounded expensive. The deputies moved him back another 2 feet. I looked at Mom still on her knees, at Dad clutching the doorframe at Jackson, red-faced and shaking. "You have 15 minutes for medications, wallets, and the dog," I said. "Everything else will be inventoried tomorrow." The first massive finale firework boomed overhead, bathing the entire scene in white-hot light. By the next morning, the video already had 2 million views and climbing fast. Someone stitched Jackson's trash can dunk with the deputies arriving 14 minutes later and added dramatic music. The clip ended on Mom kneeling in the doorway while fireworks popped overhead. Within hours, her Ballantine meltdown was trending #2 in Charlotte and climbing the national list. Jackson woke up in a Super 8 off I-485 because every cousin who had offered their couch the night before suddenly had family in town. His phone was dead, but when he finally charged it at a Waffle House, the investor group chat had already imploded. The lead VC, who was 90% in on the bridge round, sent one message: "Due diligence just turned up a very public hostile conduct revocation. We're out." The other 2 term sheets followed within minutes. $750,000 vanished before he finished his coffee. Dad tried to keep routine. He drove to the country club for his usual Wednesday 9 holes, only to find his membership card deactivated at the gate. The pro shop manager, a guy he'd played with for 15 years, looked embarrassed and handed him a printed email. "Effective immediately, Dennis Ford is removed from the Men's Association for conduct detrimental to the club's reputation." Translation: the video had been shared in the club's private Facebook group, and the board voted at 8:00 a.m. Mom opened her phone to post the annual Happy New Year from the Ford's family photo and discovered she'd been removed from every single neighborhood chat, the Ballantine Moms group, the charity luncheon committee, even the recipe exchange thread she'd moderated for 8 years. One former friend sent a private message that simply read, "We saw what you let happen to your daughter. Don't message any of us again." The rest just blocked. By noon, the local news picked it up. WBTV ran the headline, "New Year's Party Ends with Deputies at Ballantine Home." They blurred faces but not the address. Ring doorbells from 3 houses down caught crystal clear audio of Jackson screaming and Mom crying. Drive-by traffic started before lunch. People slowed down to film the yellow enforcement notice still taped to the front door. Jackson tried damage control. He posted a 10-minute Instagram live from the motel parking lot, shirt wrinkled, claiming the video was heavily edited and I was mentally unstable. The comments were brutal. Strangers recognized the deputies' voices and time-stamped everything. Someone overlaid the trust document I'd posted anonymously at 3:00 a.m. The live peaked at 41,000 viewers and ended when he threw his phone at the pavement. Dad attempted the old boys network. He called his former bank branch manager, the one who'd approved the original HELOC, asking for a quiet refinance to fix this mess. The manager told him the story was already circulating in compliance circles and hung up. Two fraternity brothers unfollowed him on LinkedIn before dinner. Mom spent the day calling anyone who would answer, voice shaking, trying to explain that it was just champagne talking. Every call ended the same way: silence, then click. By evening, she stopped trying and sat on the motel bed staring at the wall. Aunt Meredith and I watched it all from my downtown condo. She poured 2 glasses of wine and raised hers. You gave them every chance to be decent. They chose the stage. Now they live with the reviews. By 48 hours, the video crossed 12 million views. National subreddits picked it up. TikTokers did duets reacting to Jackson's slam dunk. A verified finance account posted the trust revocation rider with the caption, "Hostile conduct clause activated." Never seen one enforced this fast. Comments called it the most satisfying New Year's karma ever. Jackson's LinkedIn went private. His startup's landing page returned a 404. The 5 investors from the party ghosted him completely. Dad's golf club stayed locked in the garage he no longer had access to. Mom deleted her Facebook. 6 weeks later, the for sale sign went up in the front yard. Bright red and white professional photos already live on Zillow. The listing agent, a woman Victoria recommended, priced it aggressively at $1,790,000 to spark a bidding war. Offers started rolling in before the open house. I never set foot inside again. Everything was handled remotely, staging company inspector appraiser. The locksmith had changed every lock the same night the deputies left. A property management firm inventoried the belongings and moved what my parents requested into a 10 by 20 storage unit in Huntersville. The rest went to auction. The house sold in 12 days for $1,750,000 cash to a couple relocating from California. Closing was set for 30 days later. The buyers wanted possession immediately after funding, so the management company delivered a formal 30-day notice to the storage unit renters, Dennis and Pamela Ford. They found a 2-bedroom apartment off Statesville Road, 3rd floor. No elevator, $1,700 a month. Dad carried the boxes while Mom sat in the rental truck and cried. The complex had a pool that closed at dusk and a laundry room that smelled like old socks. Their new view was the Harris Teeter parking lot. Jackson lasted exactly 9 days at the Super 8 before the credit card hit its limit. He moved into the apartment too, sleeping on an air mattress in the living room, because the 2nd bedroom became storage for golf clubs and Christmas decorations they refused to throw away. His resume, once full of founder and visionary, now listed server at a sports bar off Billy Graham Parkway. He wore a black polo with the logo Wingstop 485 and practiced smiling in the mirror before every shift. Tips were decent on Panther Sundays, but the managers still made him bus tables when it got busy. I blocked every number I recognized, created a new email for family only, and routed anything that slipped through to spam. The property management company handled the rest. When Mom tried to call from the apartment landline, the recorded message said, "This subscriber does not accept inbound calls." Dad mailed a 6-page handwritten letter apologizing and asking for one sit-down, just us 4. It came back unopened, stamped refused. Return to sender. Jackson created 3 new Instagram accounts to message me. I reported each one for harassment until the platform suspended him. The storage bill went unpaid the 2nd month. The unit was auctioned off in March. Dad's golf clubs fetched $200. Mom's Christmas village sold for $43. Someone bought the 75-inch TV for $300 and posted it on Facebook Marketplace the same day. I wired the exact amount they still owed on the original HELOC late fees, $6,400, to the lien holder, so nothing could ever cloud the new owner's title. Then I closed that chapter. Victoria sent the final disbursement statement after commission taxes and payoff of the small remaining mortgage balance. The check was for $1,512,000. I paid off my own condo downtown, bought Aunt Meredith the lake house she'd always wanted in cash, and put the rest into a scholarship fund for first-generation college students whose families treated them like ATMs. Dad tried one last time in April. He showed up at my office building with a bouquet of grocery store roses and asked security to calm me down. The guard texted me a photo. I replied, "Inform Mr. Ford he is on private property and must leave immediately." Dad left the roses on the lobby table. The cleaning crew threw them out that night. Mom sent a birthday card in June with $20 and a note that said, "We miss our daughter." I donated the cash to the scholarship fund and recycled the card without writing back. Jackson got written up twice for arguing with customers who recognized him from the video. His manager moved him to lunch shifts where tips barely covered gas. By summer, the apartment lease was in arrears. The complex tacked a red eviction notice on the door the same week the scholarship fund awarded its first 10 recipients. This New Year's Eve, I'm throwing a party in my new condo on the 29th floor downtown. The Charlotte skyline glitters through floor-to-ceiling windows. No balloons, no champagne fountain, no countdown on a 75-inch screen. Just 10 young women in their early 20s, all first-gen college students who happen to be the eldest daughters in families that treated them like walking bank accounts, and one silver-haired firecracker named Aunt Meredith who insisted on bringing her famous 7-layer dip. These 10 recipients are the first class of the Bellamy Ford Eldest Daughter Scholarship. Full tuition, books, housing, and a modest stipend so they never have to choose between rent and their mother's insulin again. Every single one of them wrote an essay that started with some version of, "I was told my only job was to pay for my younger siblings' future." I read them on the same couch where I once cried over bank transfers at 2 a.m. Then I wired the money and invited them here tonight. The living room is warm with string lights and laughter. Someone's playlist is all early 2000s R&B. Aunt Meredith is holding court on the sectional, telling the girls how she watched me build spreadsheets at 16 to figure out which bills were due first. One recipient, a computer science major from Gastonia, just asked if she can intern at my company next summer. I told her the job is already hers. There are no toasts to golden children tonight. No one claps when someone walks out the door. No one has to smile while being erased. At 11:55, we gather on the balcony. The city is already lighting up with early fireworks. The girls lean on the railing coats, pulled tight eyes bright with possibility instead of resignation. Aunt Meredith stands beside me, hand on my shoulder, the same way she did the night everything changed. Midnight hits. Phones come out, but they're filming the skyline, not humiliation. Cheers rise soft and genuine. Someone starts singing Auld Lang Syne off-key and everyone joins in. I don't make a speech. I don't need to. These 10 women already know what happens when you stop setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. Somewhere across town in a third-floor apartment off Statesville Road, 3 people I once called family are probably watching the same fireworks from a tiny balcony that smells like fryer grease and regret. I don't know what they're doing tonight, and for the first time in my life, I don't care. I blocked the numbers, returned the letters, deleted the accounts. There is no door left open, no olive branch, no when you're ready to talk. That version of me died the moment the trash can lid slammed shut. Family isn't DNA. Family is the people who stay when the cameras are off and the applause dies. Tonight, my family is right here. 10 brilliant eldest daughters who will never again have to choose between their dreams and someone else's comfort, and one aunt who never once let me forget my worth. The fireworks end. The girls come back inside, cheeks pink from the cold, already planning study groups and summer internships. Aunt Meredith refills her wine and winks at me. I raise my glass one last time, to the ones who were never the favorite, to the ones who paid the price anyway, to the ones who finally stopped paying. We drink. The city keeps shining. And for the first time in 34 years, New Year's feels like a beginning instead of another bill coming due. I am Bellamy Ford. I am done. And I have never been freer.